Please be seated. So this morning we read another Christmas story from the gospel. Right at Christmas Eve, we read about Luke, and what's going on in that story? There are angels, there are shepherds. In Matthew, if you want to read that, and I think we will read that in a week or two, there are wise men or wise people, I should say, magi from the east. But in John, there is the Word, right? And I know that it's been about a week since a couple of you have had school. It's been maybe a little bit longer than that for some of you, since you were in school. So we're going to do a little work on the board here. All right, so we've got the Word. And in John's Christmas story, John says the Word was with God. Is it okay if I use that abbreviation? Ever use that? The W with the slash? So the Word was with God, right? But John doesn't stop there. John says the Word was God. So I'm going to put an equal sign here. The Word was with God, but the Word was God. All things came into being. Do you remember that story from Genesis where God creates the world, and God does that by speaking things into existence? God uses words to speak the world into existence. Well, John says that we're talking about that Word. The Word that has brought all things into existence is a person. And we know he was a person because John uses pronouns, right? Like he, and later on, we'll get there, John gives this Word a name. So for now, the Word was with God, the Word was God. The Word brings life, right? And the other thing that the Word does, I'm going to use a different color. The Word brings light. So here is my flashlight. All right. And John says that the Word, which brings, I'm going to light myself on fire here. Thank you. I'm going to just move this. That would be a whole different object lesson. The Word that brings life, right, came into the world. And John says that the darkness did not overcome it. John says that Jesus, or the Word, came into the world, the very world that Jesus created, but the world didn't recognize him. And then finally, and this is my favorite part, John says, well, that's not finally, because there's a lot of other stuff, but we're not going to go into all of it. We could talk about how John the Baptist testified to the light, but he wasn't the light. But my favorite part of this Christmas story is the part where John says that the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. So I'm drawing houses. You like my houses? I'm going to say this house is me. This house is you. This house is everybody else. And the language that John actually uses, in the original language, it actually says that the Word became flesh and set up his tent among us. Did you know that? So I'm going to draw a tent here. Let's see. Not really. That looks like a tent, yeah? Does it look like a tent? Fair enough. Here, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do like, and some, because this makes it feel, I don't know. There you go. Okay. So, the Word became flesh and set up his tent among us. That means that the Word became a human being, Jesus Christ, this Word who was with God, who has always been, who will always be, set up his tent among us, became one of us to be with us, and that Word is still with us. Jesus is still with us. So this is a different kind of Christmas story than the one with the little baby in the manger, but it's a really, really important Christmas story. And so now, after all of the hubbub is over, we still celebrate Christmas for another, 5-6 days? And this is what we think about. We think about how in busy times, in slow times, in good times, bad times, vacation, not vacation, that Jesus is with us, that Jesus, the one who created the whole world, the stars, the moon, everything, is with us and loves us and cares for us always. Amen.